There you are. Why don't you join me on our discovery trail? Eguisheim is a hidden gem at the heart of the Alsace vineyard. Trust me, our town and its charms never failed to delight its visitors. Allow me to share its secrets with you, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed. We want you to get the most out of exploring Eguisheim. We've pulled the best of our creative talents, historians, actors, and artists amongst others, bringing the past to life and ensuring you have an unforgettable visit. The Discovery Trail begins right here. Our series of 9 information plaques is designed to reveal Eguisheim's secrets to you. They are placed at key points along the trail. Just follow the path, it's all on the map. You can also pick up an information booklet if you'd like to find out more about the half-timbered houses, their inscriptions, or our castle. Are there children with you? We've produced a booklet to bring their visit to life. It's presented by a typical Eguisheim character. We'll be meeting again at each stage of your visit. I've tucked myself away into the QR code that you'll find on every plaque. Our voyage begins in front of one of the most well-known views in Alsace, Eguisheim's Pigeon Loft. No need to explain its purpose. The name speaks for itself. So I'll be waiting for you a bit further along the trail to tell you all about Eguisheim's colors. Take your time, and when you're ready, come and find me. Just follow the rue des Remparts. The first question that people ask when visiting Alsace is often, why so many colors? Eguisheim is certainly not lacking this respect, wouldn't you say? Our town dazzles and captivates. It wants to flaunt its charms. Yet these colors are a recent chapter in our history. Let's take a shortcut and go back in time. With so many shortcuts in Eguisheim, we're in danger of getting lost. This is how our town looked less than 50 years ago. It wasn't very appealing, was it? Our houses, which were built between the 12th and 16th century, had wattle and daub wedged between the timbers of their wooden frames. Straw, earth, and water were often mixed with pebbles, broken pottery, or horsehair. Whatever they could get their hands on, really. At that time, nobody could afford to buy pigments. Colors only existed in pastel tones, and they remained the preserve of the rich. Most of our facades remained in the natural colors of wattle and daub, and were at best whitewashed with lime. In the 17th century, during the Renaissance, our ancestors began to change the look of their homes, adding sculptures, crosses, and wood carvings to their facades, favoring corner posts and windows. Let's take a leap through time to the 19th century. Cement has begun to cover our towns and villages. Although cement has existed since Roman times, it suddenly becomes a sign of prosperity. Whilst it can't be denied that cement rendering protected homes from the ravages of time, more important was the fact that nothing better demonstrated a person's social success than covering their home in cement. And so that's how our streets became dreary and grey, and life too. Look, all these nails and gashes marking the timbers enable the render to stick. Around 1920, a new chemical process made the fabrication of paints and colours possible. And all importantly, their ability to stick. After all the wars, and after losing our sense of identity so many times, our region needed to boost its morale and find a new style. So we decided to give our towns a cheerful makeover. With a colourful new mood expressed in flavours and colours, as with our food and wine, very quickly we realised that Alsace's new appearance pleased our visitors. Hello Martine.
Hello.
Can I help you arranging the geraniums?
Yes, of course.
Come with us, we're going to help Martine. Let's pause here for a moment. It's the ideal place to tell you about Eguisheim's roundness. Our town has an unusual shape. It's circular, surrounded and protected by a double rampart. Look, the first wall was built in the 12th century. It offered protection to the important and wealthy tithe courtyards situated within. I'll tell you more about these tithe courtyards later on. The second rampart was erected in the 14th century, indicating the important role that Eguisheim played in the economy of the region. What is also interesting to observe is how the layout of the rampart structured the organization of daily life in Eguisheim. Homes were built against the outer wall, whilst in the center, the construction of agricultural outbuildings created two separate pathways. Rather like two modern-day ring roads, the Rue des Remparts became home to the social life of Eguisheim, whilst the Almen was reserved for farming-related activities. Look, you can see clearly from here. The interior rampart is visible to the eye, as are the two circular roads. So Eguisheim is going to take us around in a circle. Without realizing, you're already heading back towards the place where you started. It's surprising, even disorientating. Oh, hold on. I've been here before, haven't I? What did I say? Eguisheim is a town full of surprises. Let's head back to Martine and her geraniums. It will be the perfect opportunity to have a look at some of the details of the facades. Geraniums are an essential part of our towns and villages in Alsace. They're part of the decor, part of our culture, part of what makes this Alsace. But why geraniums? It's because of their color, their resistance, and their longevity, which could also be a definition of our region. Well, whilst we're arranging the geraniums, why don't you take a look at this lovely oriel window? There are several in this street, and they are worth examining closely. Oriel windows saved space and let more light into the houses. Furthermore, they allowed the embroiderers to observe everything that was happening during lengthy embroidery sessions. Oh, look, something's happening by the old city gate. I'm going to see. Well, Caroline, what a great idea this illustration is. These are the old gates of Eguisheim. You can easily find traces of where they were situated. Here, we're in the upper part of the town. These gates opened out, towards the vineyards. There were two other gates in the lower part of the town, facing out towards the plain and its trade route.
Are you from Eguisheim?
Yes, I am.
I've seen the sign IHS several times now. Do you know what it means?
IHS invokes the Son of God. Jesus, Saviour of men. Our houses often carry inscriptions requesting divine protection. God is everywhere in the daily life of Alsace. This inscription just above begs protection from house fires. If you're interested in inscriptions, just follow the rampart and you'll come across some really interesting ones.
Great, thanks. Do you want a pretzel?
Thanks, I'd love one. Well, you can't really visit Alsace without eating a pretzel. In fact, are you interested in the inscriptions? Come along then, there's a really good one just a few steps away. So, about these inscriptions. They're basically quotations carved in stone, and quite a lot of the buildings here have got them. You probably noticed some along the first part of the trail. Go on, look up. Most of the time, these dictums were used to ward away bad luck, and for that they had to ask God for a little help. Like this one, which pleads, "Come, Holy Spirit, come, Holy Consoler." Do you remember the inscription we saw earlier at the old city gates? It was asking for protection against house fires. Here's the translation. "This house is in the hands of the Lord. May the Lord protect it from fire." A little further, there is one that is quite surprising and very amusing. Come this way, it's just over there. Bernard is a member of Eguisheim's Historical Society. He's going to help us. So Bernard, can you tell me, what does this one mean?
Why are you looking at me like that? Be off and mind your own business.
Yes, that's true. Why are you looking at me like that? Be off and mind your own business. Thanks, Bernard. So don't forget to look upwards whilst visiting Eguisheim. Our houses have quite a few tales to tell. Hidden in the corner of this house, a date and a symbol representing a butcher's cleaver. This was a butcher's house. It dates from 1683, and the owner's initials were HH. You'll come across dates and initials on almost every house, carved into the timbers or engraved into the door lintels. They were usually the initials of the couple who built the house, or the date of their wedding. But the most interesting ones are just above the entrances, on the stone pediments. Get your camera ready and come a little closer. You're a butcher, a baker, or a barrel maker, or maybe you want to display your passion for flowers. In that case, what better than a coat of arms just above your door? Here, we've got a cooper, or barrel maker. You can see his tools, a mallet and 2 crams, a type of pliers. In this portfolio, you can see several of Eguisheim's impressive coats of arms. Here's a farmer's plough, and a flail to thresh the corn. The nail maker, another cooper, but in this one, a sword crosses the shield. It shows that he was a master craftsman, which gave him the right to carry a sword. More unusually, his coat of arms immortalizes its owner's passion for flowers. Unless his name was Daisy. Whatever the story, he lived with his head in the clouds and loved to daydream. A baker and 2 loaves of bread. The keys to the town, Eguisheim's coat of arms. I'm going to leave you to look for all these emblems. See if you can decipher them. I'll be waiting for you in the main square. I want to introduce you to an illustrious character. Don't worry, take your time. He's waiting for you. He's not going anywhere. All that remains of the medieval castle is the foot of its perimeter wall. It was octagonal. But the history of Eguisheim begins long before the age of fortified castles. Eguisheim has been a highly prized territory since Celtic times, and even more so during the Roman era. The kings of the Franks created the Duchy of Alsace in the 7th century. The first structure was built here the following century. Then a wealthy landowning heir named Eguisheim moved in. He was most likely the origin of our town's name, Eguisheim. Here are a few glimpses of the past. In the year 1000 AD, the fortified castle was built by Eguisheim's descendants. In the 16th century, the ditches and the keep disappeared. A chapel was built in the 19th century. A bird's eye view is best. But watch out for passing storks whilst flying overhead. The Counts of Eguisheim built our fortified castle, adding to their earlier strongholds in the heights of the town. One of these counts, Hugh IV, was very powerful. His economic domination spanned a large part of the wider region. He had 9 children. One of them was destined to follow a religious vocation. His name was Bruno of Eguisheim. I mentioned earlier that I wanted you to meet a famous person. Well, this person is Bruno, this child of Eguisheim. Here he is again, just behind me, looking all magisterial in the middle of our town. But this time his name is Leon IX. He was Pope between 1049 and 1054. The chapel is dedicated to him, so you won't be surprised to hear that's where we're going next. A burst of colour. Leon IX travelled the length and breadth of Europe, trying to reduce the tensions at the heart of the Catholic Church. He was a reformer. For example, he put an end to the nomination of the sovereign pontiffs by the king or emperor, and he was against the marriage of priests. The nave is an open book, telling the story of the major events in our Pope's life. His birth was touched by the hand of God. He devoted himself to the poor and the sick. He was revered as a miracle worker. The stained glass windows are dedicated to the saints, 12 in all. Notably Saint Odile, who is particularly dear to us here in Alsace. Leon IX's legacy continues to this day in the administration of the Church of Rome. Traces of Bruno can be found in Eguisheim today. He remains omnipresent, with this relic as a reminder. Shh, I'll leave you to take a look around. Annecy is a famous early 19th century Alsatian illustrator. He said that our bell tower was the most beautiful in Alsace. We see it in several of his drawings. Our bell tower dates from the 12th century. The church it belonged to collapsed a long time ago. The tympanum of the old entrance is home to the Virgins of Eguisheim. Come in.
Ah, there you are.
I'm so glad to see her again. Madeleine is a specialist on our Virgins. I leave her to reveal their story. Come closer.
Our opening Virgin or Smiling Madonna is one of the oldest in Alsace. She is from the 14th century.
So how many are left in Alsace?
In Alsace we have 2, and all over the world perhaps 60.
So why are there so few remaining today?
Yes, in the Middle Ages we had hundreds of those statues, but on the Council of Trent, 1549, it was forbidden, and they were destroyed.
Okay, so what were the reasons to destroy them?
The reason, you see, the opening Madonna had inside a cross with Christ, Godfather, and the Holy Spirit. So it was the Trinity.
I see. And she's made from the wood of the linden, I believe.
Yes, polychrome wood.
Okay. So Madeleine, tell me about the Virgins above it.
In the linden we have also polychrome as a parable about virgins, the wise and the foolish virgins.
So on the right, the foolish ones hold the lamps upside down.
Yes, and they are knocking at the door. Nobody is coming to over. And at left you have the wise with their candle or lamp, and Christ is waiting of them.
They're waiting for the Last Judgment.
Yes, the Last Judgment, and you know in the history, Christ is explaining through.
The truth, the symbol of truth.
And the last sentence is, wait, because you don't know the day nor the hour when we have to go.
The name Alsace comes from Alisa, which in common Celtic meant land of the foreigner. The region has always been at the center of commercial exchanges. and at the heart of continual mixing of people and cultures. The river Rhine has played an important role in our town's growing influence since antiquity. In this context, there were numerous rich and powerful tithe courtyards in our town. More often than not, they belonged to the abbeys and the convents. Protected by the perimeter walls, these courtyards were the place where they sold their grain, their wood, and all importantly, their fine wines. Eguisheim was already in possession of all the conditions necessary for the production of the finest vintage wines.
Are you interested in fine wines?
Who are you?
The host of this cellar for the last 5 centuries.
But nobody ever told me about you.
This is my first appearance. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to take part in the presentation of my town.
But what are you doing here? I mean, have you been here all this time?
Since my arrival in this town in 1530, I was in charge of overseeing the production of wines for a big abbey. Wine was a luxury product, a rarity, with a very high value. Eguisheim already produced highly sought-after fine wines, thanks to the climate, the quality of the soil, and our know-how. Take a little of this wine. And then hold it towards the light. It's a Riesling. Its color reminds me of a great vintage from 1535. Taste it now. So?
This wine is just as unreal as you are. Where are you?
Come back tomorrow. I'll tell you about the grape varieties back in my time. The Gewürztraminer, the Riesling, and the Muscat. They were already making great wines. The winemakers of today seem to have followed in our footsteps.
Ansari zu viel und leer, dass uns Gott und Meier Bier. The bells are tolling midnight, and all is quiet. No fires, no bandits. I'm doing my round, and may God give you all a good night. Ansari zu viel und leer, dass uns Gott und Meier Bier.
Incredible. It's night time.
Eric, what are you doing out in the street in the middle of the night?
I thought I knew everything about our town, but something very surprising has just happened to me. You're not going to believe it.
Let's walk together. You can tell me all about it while we're walking.
Tell me, how long have you been here?
I've lost count. The night watchman. For 5 or 6 centuries, I guess.